I want to talk today about the lie of awakening, the false journey of awakening, the conceptualization of an imaginary story that there's somewhere to go, that there's something to attain, okay? Because the truth is very simple. It's so simple. But simple does not sell, okay? Simple does not sell books. It does not sell retreats. It does not sell a deification of a teacher who knows everything, okay? Because non-duality and spirituality is an industry, okay? Because what they're actually pointing to, what this beautiful message of non-duality is pointing to, is the truth that is already here, okay? So then why does it take many years, and sometimes doesn't even happen for people, to see this clarity that these teachers are talking about? And so I'm going to talk about that today, because I wasted, there really is no wasting, but at the same time, I hamster wheeled 10 years of my life listening to non-duality teachers and speakers talk about awakening. And honestly, what I see now is that the actual teaching of it kept me seeking. Not seeing, but seeking, right? So today that I want to share with you the truth that took me a long time to realize, but it doesn't need to take you a long time to realize. So you are not on a path to awakening. The path was imagined. The path, the spiritual journey, was a story that contained thoughts about the past and the future, references to something that happened, and imagination about what will happen based on what happened, right? But we miss the only thing that is actually happening, okay? And what the pointing is today, and I'm going to get into this, is that you are standing in the very place that you are looking for. Okay? I thought that awakening had to be some wow moment. I thought that it was going to be something and I just would recognize it and there would be some big shift and I would be, oh, I'm awakened now. I see it so clearly. It all makes sense, right? But that just kept me waiting. It kept me stuck in concepts, and it kept me listening to these teachers that were making all of these promises and sharing all of these beautiful descriptions, beautiful concepts about what was going to happen in the future and about what happened to them. The mind can't help but start to make comparisons when it hears about another teacher's experience. Right? So you're waiting for something to happen, and the teachers and the constant taking in of information is really what's keeping most spiritual seekers stuck, okay? It's just talk. And I'm guilty of this too, because sometimes I'll come on these lives and I'll talk for 2, 3, 4 hours even sometimes, and we got to use words, so it's not like words are bad in itself. But if you could just whittle it down to the most simple pointing, if you're interested in self-realization, is that it's just right here, okay? And I think the way that teachers now are, and have been in the past, communicating this is that they feel like they need to give answers to the student, or they need to give descriptions about what this realization felt like to them. And, I'm sure some of them are well-intentioned, some of them are well-meaning, and some of them are just making some money, interested in non-duality, and using what they've learned in order to teach and share information. But it's not about information. It's really not. And so, you can learn the basics of non-duality. You can hear the message of enlightenment. That's really just bait for the mind so that it can start looking inwards and it can start realizing that the fulfillment that it's seeking is not going to be found in the material world. Okay? But you're not going to find it through answers. And you hear this a lot in like satsangs or spiritual teachers answering questions. But my approach is to just go super direct, because this is what worked for me. Not answering questions, but asking you questions and guiding you into this space yourself, because there's already no one here. The self that you're taking yourself to be is just a mental construct. It's just a collection of thoughts, of sensations, of memories. Okay? So by the end of this, you are going to clearly understand what it is that I'm talking about. You're going to see that nothing really needs to shift. Nothing needs to really explode in your direct experience in order for you to recognize what I'm talking about. Because it's just a direct pointing to your true nature, okay? And so, just to start off with, the main problem that we see in non-duality and all of that is how it's communicated, okay? It's often communicated as something that is going to happen in the future, okay? If I heal my trauma, if I abide in awareness, if I silence my mind, then one day I will experience the direct realization of the truth that all of these masters are talking about, and then my problems will go away, okay? So anything that's, if I do this, then is A to B, right? That is just a story that's being imagined in your mind. And what ends up happening, because there is a doing, whether that's a surrendering or a trying to silence the mind or a shadow work or any of that, there's a doing, there's a consistent doing, there's going to be an identification around it. Like, that just makes sense. The mind is going to say, okay, now I'm meditating a lot. Now I'm releasing my thoughts. Now I'm healing my emotions. And it starts to form a story around that, okay? And not to mention the natural hierarchical orientation that the identity builds around the teacher that it is listening to. Like, there's someone up here that knows something that I don't, okay? And they're the embodiment of truth, or the embodiment of Shiva, right? Or they're completely empty, or they've got it. They've got something that I don't, and I need to be close to them. I need to look into their eyes and receive darshan. I need to get their blessings or their healing power. And many spirit, not all of them, but many of them, they don't necessarily come out and straight up say this, but they allow their followers to believe that. And some of them do come up and straight up say that, right? So this message, it feels good. It feels good to hear constantly. Like, I loved going to satsangs and listening to teachers and watching videos and reading books about them talking about, you are the divine, you are the pure being, you are the consciousness, right? You are the universe. It feels good, and you get a little hit after and you want to believe it. But it only is teaching you at the belief level, because it's just giving information to your mind, right? It's beautiful concepts, but it creates like this foundation for the mind to begin imagining and projecting a story and taking on, like, hoarding information, right? Oh, if I could just get the right, maybe I should learn Tamil and I'll know the right exact way that Ramana versed this. Or if I just go and see this sage and become close to him, then I will get it, right? That's all just stories and projections of the past. But if you're already it, then you're already it. And the teaching just kind of falls away because there's literally nothing to teach, really. There's just a recognition that you've been pretending to be this story that's playing out in your thoughts, right? And then maybe you hear a message from a teacher like, okay, so I was thinking, but now I need to stop thinking. Or I was learning, and now I need to unlearn. But no thoughts and unlearning and non-doing are still mental constructs, right? Are still ideas that the mind is creating and believing. So thoughts is a 1, no thoughts is a 0, but you are the space that contains both. So it's not about having no thoughts, it's not about emptying your mind, it's not about not doing. That's still a doing, okay? And this is why it can feel really confusing, because the mind is trying to understand it, okay? But what actually worked for me was being pointed directly to this space of no self, you could call it clarity, directness, okay? When my mentor guided me and asked me questions such as, what are you without language right now? What are you without your story right now? What are you without the past and the future right now? In the same way that I am offering sessions to people and helping them wake up out of the delusion of the false thought identification, it is just clearly seen that there's no one here. And this can be very simple. And it was so simple that my mind resisted it because I had been so used to looking for something in a concept. I was so used to searching for something in a future moment. But once the me collapsed, once the me was seen through, that there was no character, that there's just this experiencing happening, this capacity for life, capacity for everything, centerless being. There's really no words, but that's what I've got right now. That's what's coming through. The story drops away. Yeah, hi Vishal. Vishal says, but who was waking up? Exactly. There is no person that's waking up. You're waking up out of the person, just like when you wake up out of a dream, right? You realize that the whole dream was just a pretend game in your mind that you were believing to be real, but it was just a fabrication of feelings, images, thoughts, etc. Right? So this isn't a learning something, right? There's actually nothing to learn. It's just the simplicity of what already is. And the direct pointing and what I offer in my sessions and in these lives as well. So you're welcome to come on and be guided into this direct pointing. This is a pleasure to share this with people because it really is so simple. And the direct pointing works because it bypasses the mind. Right? The mind thinks that it needs to find something, that it needs to learn something. Didn't work for me, okay? I tried to learn my way to awakening for many, many years, and it did not work for me. It's not about taking in information. It's about the dropping away of the one who is seeking for something outside of this moment. And when you see that there's actually no one seeking, that it was just an illusion of thoughts that were appearing that said, I, there's just nothing other than this. There's just nothing more to find. And the bliss can be there, but there can be other experiences too. There can be anxiety even, right? There can still be thoughts. It doesn't have to be like, okay, now all of a sudden the self drops away and I all of a sudden have no thoughts and now I'm just shifted. It could come on very gradually, right? And this sometimes, I mean, it's just a story, but it can also be like a really great way to experience this nice and slowly as you're like, okay, yeah, I got caught up in a story, but there's actually no one here. Because the thoughts speak in the story. The thoughts speak in past and future. But what are you right now if you take away the past and the future? What are you right now without your thoughts? What's here that doesn't need a thought or a belief to exist? Just this, right? Just this directness. But directness for who? Where is the character that's observing this directness? There's no character. There's no person. It was just imagined story that was playing out in this empty space of now, imagining there to be a whole story, a whole journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can call that like the distinction between the relative or the absolute. You know, the relative being like the human level, the journey, the memories, all of that, the overcoming of challenges and how the kind of A to B experience plays out. But that's based on memories and thoughts. It's only ever playing out right now, and the only thing that's ever real, right? And this is the absolute. You're always in the absolute. You always are the absolute. The absolute is where the relative is contained within. And then let's take that even a step deeper, because the relative and the absolute are also just concepts. Don't hang your hat on anything I'm saying. Don't take any of what I'm saying to be a belief, because it's so much more simple than that. What are you without your beliefs right now? Right now, just go directly to the question, what are you without your beliefs? I'm me, everything, getting closer in the state of isness. Yeah, thanks for your comments, guys. I haven't been reading the comments. Sorry, I've been flowing. Peace in the now, overthinking how I can stop it. I'm the chosen one. They're all traps. How are you? I'm good, thanks. My live is about the end of spiritual seeking. Golden Mighty. So there's also this idea that awakening, there's some big shift that happens. Okay? And, you know, I can even talk to people and they say, yeah, like, I see that there's no one here. I get what you're saying, but there's no shift. Like, I don't feel the bliss. I don't feel the, you know, impersonal identity or identity-free space, right? And that is really this waiting for a shift to happen. It's almost like the final trap that the ego has. The final line of defense that keeps the seeker going. Because really, if there was an intention for the ego, it is for it to continue. It's like an impersonal energy that wants to continue staying alive. Okay? But it's not even real at the same time. It's just believed in. Because it's only made of words, right? And words are completely made up. They're just temporary sounds that appear in the subjective experience. So this belief, this concept of waiting for a shift to happen, waiting for a pop, an aha moment, or an energetic expansion, and you're like, well, that's not really happening. I'm just left with the directness of the moment. That the mind will layer on top of that, something's missing, I'm doing it wrong, you know, it can't be just this, it can't be just this simple. And don't get me wrong, like energetic, expansive experiences can coincide with shifts in clarity, but that's also not what I'm talking about. And to be honest, I don't recommend, I mean, do what you want, but personally for me, I went down those rabbit holes of the energy activation and the Kundalini stuff, and I ended up getting an injury actually. So if you really are interested in it, I've heard that there's this book called The Biology of Kundalini. And if you really know what you're doing, or you have a teacher that is very experienced that can take you there, go for it. But what I'm sharing is way more simple than doing an hour of breath work and Kegels every morning, because you're already it, right? And if anything, that just feeds into this illusion that there's something that you need to activate within you so that you can become what you are. But you already are what you are. And this is the delusion, not only of the ego, but of the spiritual ego, and of the way that non-duality and spirituality is being communicated right now. And it's really sad. And I can say personally it's sad, because I got trapped in this for so many years, wasting my time learning concepts about something that is not a concept. It's insane when you start to see through it. So don't wait for an energy shift to happen. You're already this directness. You're already what you are. And when you see that the mind's creating a story of, well, something's still missing, this isn't quite it, just be aware for that. Because non-duality and spirituality, like, again, I just have to emphasize, it is an industry. People are making money off of your seeking, okay? And I'm not saying that all of the spiritual teachers are dodgy cult leaders, but some of them are. And the only way that I can safely say that is because I see, from the space of clarity that I'm in now, I see how, maybe they have some clarity. I don't know. But they start getting sidetracked, right? Oh, you need to heal all of your trauma now. When an emotion comes up, just feel it and process it and let it go. Yeah. And then the more you do that, the more you purge the negativity from the body, the closer you'll get to awakening, right? Or you need to embody your nervous system, right? You need to become free and more connected to your instincts. Or you need to completely silence your mind. Let's make sure that we meditate 3 times a day in our retreats, or we'll do a silent retreat where we're not stimulating the mind and we're not feeding it any coffee or any dopamine, because we need to be very pure and sattvic. Notice how all of that is just a doing. Okay? There's really no money in what I'm pointing you to, because it is free. Like I'm giving an ice to an Eskimo, a snow to an Eskimo, or an Inuit. I'm Canadian, I should know that it's not that word anymore. My apologies. So the trauma healing, the nervous system integration, the embodiment, the quieting the mind, there's nothing wrong with that. Like of course that can be helpful for the character. But it's also, you're not going to trauma work your way to awakening. You're not going to shadow work your way into a recognition of what is, because you already are what is. It's actually so much more simple than most of these teachers are communicating. And that's what gets people trapped, right? Going to retreat after retreat after retreat. I did a session with a woman 3 days ago. She was a referral from another client that I had a call with, okay? Didn't even see my TikToks, didn't see my YouTube videos, didn't really know what she was getting into, but she was going through a difficult experience. And one of my clients referred her to me and said, maybe this will help. Didn't really have any spiritual understanding, didn't even know what non-duality was. Okay, she was going through a big transition and was having some anxiety about it. I have the video recording and I'm going to put it up on my YouTube channel, hopefully next week. Her name's Julia, wonderful woman. And I just met her directly, brought her into this directness with my questions. And within half an hour, or I would say around half an hour, something clicked for her. And she entered into this kind of no self-recognition state. And it's not really a state, because it's really just the foundation of what you are before you start playing the pretend game of the character. And I was like, you realize that this is what people are meditating in caves for years in order to recognize. And she she's just a human being doing her thing. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the same for every single person, but it's just, I just go super direct. So you don't even need all of this non-dual BS. No offense, beautiful concepts, but you don't need it. That's the old way. You don't need to be spiritual in order to understand, in order to be what you already are. You don't need to be spiritual in order to be what you already are. Okay? That is the past. Okay? That is the 2000s. We're in 2025 now. You're already it. It's just this directness, okay? And there can be energetic experiences when you come into this recognition. I had another client last week who has scoliosis, and she messaged me a couple days ago and was like, my back is starting to feel more aligned. It's been like clicking and doing all of these movements, and I looked in the mirror and it looks more straight. And it all started happening after we only did 2 sessions. And it started happening after that. And I'm like, that's amazing. And for me, like as I was coming into this clarity, when I was really in the directness of it, I would get these kind of like head, like kind of things like that. And yeah, not to create a whole story around that, but it does seem like that there is some kind of energy that's holding the illusion of the character in place. Okay, that these beliefs have some kind of, it is somehow, because we believe ourselves to be the thoughts, it is somehow entangled into our nervous system, right? But seeing through that, which can be done under an hour, even less, 5 minutes even for some people, it's like the nervous system will start releasing. Okay, so there can be like an energetic component there, so I don't want to totally knock nervous system, trauma healing. It can be helpful for the character, but it's also not the be-all, end-all to awakening. So don't get caught up with any practice, with any healing, thinking that that's going to help yourself to be more of who you are. There really is no awakening even. Awakening is just a concept for the mind. You are not a concept, right? This is the end of seeking. This is the end of your imaginary problems. You start to see that the thoughts are not real. You start to see that the past and the future are just concepts. And all there is this directness. And some people, it can feel like a wow, I'm excited about life now. I can't believe this. This is unexpected, like it was for my client that I was telling you about who had no spiritual experience whatsoever, came into this direct recognition and is like, yeah, there's no future. What was I worrying about? There's just something that's happening. There's just something that's taking care of everything. There's no story. I was just and she's like, and it seems so obvious now that I see it. Like, I can't believe that I was lost in that. And that's what the whole world is lost in. We're lost in this thought trance, in this delusion of language, hypnosis, believing that the truth is something that needs to be worked out mentally. But the mental realm is simply just one component of the reality that we live in, right? It doesn't hold the ultimate truth. It creates concepts about the ultimate truth. It creates a word, a phrase, the ultimate truth. But that's just made up. Is it real? Is it unreal? It's the same thing. They're just words. What's between real and unreal? What's between thought and no thought? What's between belief and no belief? It's right here. It's just this. It's not the character. It's not going to even be found, and particularly through a thought. But it's like just waking up to the mystery. And that can be the problem for the mind, because the mind, it is a mystery. It is a bit of an I don't know realm for the mind. But the mind wants to know. And so it'll be like, oh, okay, I don't know. I'm going to keep looking until I know, until I have a nice little mental construct around awakening. And from that, we form all of these different Buddhism, Hinduism, yoga, Sufism, Christianity, New Age, philosophy, Zen practices, and people start doing these crazy extreme things, shaving their heads, becoming celibate, living in caves for their entire life, sacrificing their families, walking away from their families, sacrificing their entire life to find God. But what's between God and no God? What if God's just a concept? What if there is no action? What if God is just a made up thing? What if there's nothing actually outside of this? This moment is what you're looking for on your spiritual path. It's always been this. It's been happening within this. It is what you are, always, ever present. There's nothing more to find. There's nothing outside of this. Okay? And so this is the end of spiritual seeking, and this is what I offer people in my one-on-one sessions, in my lives. It's a beautiful pointing, and if I'm going to create a story around it, it is the evolution, the next evolutionary step of spirituality. You don't need to sit in an ashram and shave your head for the rest of your life. You don't need to spend 5 or 10 or 20 years abiding in awareness. You don't need to meditate every morning. You don't need to become a yoga initiate. You can do all those things. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But when you're ready to give up seeking, the end of seeking is right here. It's you. You are the end of seeking. This moment is the end of seeking. And it's the realization that there's nothing to find.